This is probably the singular product that I've gotten asked the most often about over the last few months. This is the new Keppi Weight Bench 6000. It's really quite simple why this is so popular. Keppi had great success with their 5000 bench and now has taken some of the feedback and made them into key upgrades and added new features to this latest iteration. The 6000 is a fully loaded, flat, incline, and decline adjustable bench with grippy vinyl, knurled grip handle, built-in upright storage kickstand, removable elbow pads for curls, an attachment port for decline sit-ups, and more. However, the best part about this bench is you can usually get it under $350 out the door with coupons and free shipping. So as far as the price goes and the amount of the functionality you get, it doesn't seem to get a whole lot better than this. So let's check it out. So in the past, we reviewed the Keppi Weight Bench 5000. I will link that in the description below. This here is their 6000 version. As you can see, I had it in upright storage mode. It actually has a nice little nameplate, little kickstand here, whatever you want to call that, so that it stays completely secure when it's upright. And because the back pad is locked in via their pop pin system, which we'll go over in a second, basically, it's not going to go anywhere once it's upright. You are also probably wondering, what on earth are these things that are staring at you in the face? And well, these are removable curl pads to go behind your elbows. We'll show them in use in some B-roll here in a second. But you can get creative with these if you want to use them for things outside curls. That's just where they're kind of stored. I'll actually throw them off to the side so you can kind of see this bench in all this glory. But this is actually one of the things that make this bench so unique compared to other benches and also previous versions. Before I get into the video, if you could quickly hit that subscribe button below if you haven't already, it's going to continue to help us grow the channel. Make sure you get notified when we post both of our reviews a week throughout the rest of 2025 and all next year. And if you're interested in purchasing this after the review, check out that affiliate link in the description below. All right, so the 6000 looks quite a bit different than that 5000 we reviewed. I will say the main difference, this is a flat incline decline adjustable bench via a pop pin system right here. You have access to up to 85 degrees in the fully upright position, all the way down to 0 degrees for the back pad. And the seat pad is pretty crazy because it goes up to 30 degrees and down to, I think, minus 37.5. So 30 degrees incline. And when the back pad is angled, this will go all the way down to minus 37.5 degrees. So you get this full, crazy, pretty much flat pad for decline, particularly decline sit-ups, because I doubt anyone's doing decline bench at this angle. Not that most benches need this, but it's a nice feature that they do offer this. So again, flat, incline, decline. The decline happens with the included for the price. And the price, by the way, is somewhere out the door of $350. I know, shameless plug, code Jungle Gym gets 5%, 6% off, something like that. I don't care if you use my coupon code or someone else's, but just know there's coupon codes floating around. So whatever the price is of this, it's usually on sale in air quotes, and then an additional 5 or 6% off, which with free shipping, which comes out to under $350. Everything you see here, $350. That's why this bench is so enticing compared to everything else, because you get everything included, and the features that we'll continue to show here are the exact same as some of the top of the line benches, but with just a fraction of the price. Decline leg roller here is one of the, kind of goes to show some of the improvements they really took. You'll see there's a multi-angle kind of bracket here. So once I put this in here and lock it in with the pop pin, all of these pop pins throughout here are threaded, by the way. So it's a pop pin that allows it to slide once it's locked in at the height you want. So this adjusts in and out. But once it's at the distance, the setting you want, you do want to turn that, thread it down. So now it's secure and the attachment's not going to wobble in the port itself. Same thing actually goes for the little pop pins here. That was one of the feedback they took from the Keppi Bench 5000, which I believe just had like an original like spring-loaded pin, which some people said came out under heavy load, which is obviously a huge danger and an issue. So this, when you do the pop pin in, it's got actually like a little bit, it's not knurling, but it has texture on the knob itself, so it makes it easy to grip. It's not just a flat knob. You thread that all the way down. So now it is fully threaded, not gonna go anywhere, popped and threaded, and you're good to go. Back to this leg extension attachment. It has different angles up and down. I don't really care for this, I don't know what this is. Nut, knob, this takes a second. It's just like a little thread. So that's what locks this pin up and down. So your feet, when you're sitting here, you can choose what angle you want it to be. So if you want it a little higher for whatever reason, or you want it all the way down, this is what goes in these holes. I particularly find it the most comfortable in the all the way down position. And it's just a little bolt that you do have to sit there and thread down. It's not a pop pin like the other ones. Not a huge deal, but I would say this is like the most, budget thing on here. And then, in addition to that, what's cool about this is this adjusts up and down. So you can change where it kind of fits your ankles, which is very nice. Some of the other more expensive versions, companies like Rep, Bolt, I've seen GetRx, all those, they're usually like a rod that goes through the frame of this bench attachment. So then if you actually want to adjust it to your height, or you have a friend that works out, or whatever it is, it actually takes a little bit of time for you to move it. This way it's just a quick pop pin up, down, and it's ready to go. The other thing, there's too many adjustments on this. There's one more threaded pop pin on the side here that allows you to adjust the height of it. So if you want to do things like Nordic curls or something off the bench, which I 100% will be honest with you, do not do. So I'm not even going to attempt to and or show you how to do that. But if you want to put this flat, get down here and try to do Nordic curls off here, you can do that as well. I will say, before this video, since the new world of bench and bench attachments is the latest and greatest thing, I did measure, for everyone who's going to ask, the port size on this. The attachments themselves that go in here are 1.6 by 1.6 outer diameter units, 1.6 by 1.6 inches outer diameter. If you wanted to get this bench and wanted to add on like the new Rep Fitness, leg extension, leg curl attachment, or in future with the dialed motion or the Freak Athlete ABX leg developer attachment, just know those are probably not going to work on here unless you have some sort of adapter, but I would just bet on the fact they will not work on something like this because this port is too small. Besides that, there's a handful of other like quality and quality of life upgrades they made on this. Honestly, I'm going to be just straight honest with you, and sorry, Keppi, if you're listening to this. When they sent me this bench, didn't think I was going to like it, to be quite honest. I was like, okay, yep, it's a budget bench. There's a lot of them, and to be quite frank, they're a dime a dozen. There are so many adjustable benches on the market. Something that's a couple $100 and offhand is going to be a more budget-friendly bench typically doesn't scream it's going to be the best, it's going to have the best functionality, but I have to say, I've been very impressed, and I've liked this way more than I thought. So besides all the kind of new nifty little features and stuff, the actual like design and aesthetic of it, it's a little bit shorter bench when it comes to, let's say, some of the long FID benches. So I actually think that's quite a pro, because not only does it weigh somewhere around, I think like 80 to 90 pounds, because it has a short wheelbase, you can actually turn and move it in very small spaces. And the overall like design and features and everything they did, they have these little like textured grippy kind of feet to make sure it doesn't slide. It's plastic, it's not actually like rubber, but it just provides a little more obviously like friction on the ground. The knurled handle, although it's not like the craziest nice, whatever Rogue Ohio Power Bar knurling that you've seen in your life, it's just nice enough to where it doesn't feel like super cheap and it's like a cheap rubber coating. It feels lightish, but it definitely is, I would say, solid and secure. So when it's in the incline position, it doesn't really wobble. It's not the most exactly sturdy bench in the world compared to those super heavy big boy benches, but absolutely no problems with stability. It stands upright very easily. It doesn't move. It's not a danger to fall. It's got the locking on all the pop pins and everything, and just the nice touches of aesthetic here. One thing I did forget to mention, the pad I think is like 2.5, 2 3/4 inch. This is definitely on the softer side for pads. I'll say this is comfortable for me, but for people who are like pressing really, really heavy weight, typically people want denser pads because they provide more stability. But I'd say for most average home gym people, this is the right blend of thick enough padding to provide support, but also soft enough to where it doesn't feel uncomfortable or just like a rock, because most of us are not competitive powerlifters. We're just people trying to get in a good workout at home. And as I mentioned, the grippy vinyl is nice because it's a little bit thicker than their 5,000 version, which I felt was always the type of vinyl that might not last long term. So they made that a little bit thicker, but the actual texture of it being grippy allows you not to slide all around when you're sweaty or, just trying to hold on, whether it's, you on the side doing things like dips off the side of the bench or whatever it is. So a couple last things. The seat pad gap here is about 1.5 inches. This is different from their 5,000 because the 5,000 was a 0 gap or whatever the technology they wanted to call it was, meaning that there was no gap between the seat pad and the back pad. And this one, that gap is always there. It doesn't go away. Not an issue at all. And 1.5 inches is very minimal. By the time you put it in some incline position, again, the gap is essentially gone. I'm 6'2", so with my butt comfortably centered on the seat pad and my head here, this is about what it looks like as far as clearance for benching or whatever it is you want to do. Now, one of the things I did not mention are some of the dimensions. The height from the floor is just over 17 inches to the top of the pad. The length of the back pad here is 34 inches. The width is 11.4, I believe, so about 11.5, right in the sweet spot of what I consider. I personally like the 11-inch width pads. So this is 11.4, and that more has to do with shoulder blade frame / back size where it feels comfortable for you. A lot of benches, especially home gym oriented ones, have gone to the 12-inch in recent years. I personally like 11-ish inches a little bit better. So this one's 11.5. And then the seat pad itself is 13.5 inches long. Now, one of the real downsides to this bench that I found is not so much a limitation of the bench itself, but more of how it's kind of designed and where all the feet and everything are located. I have noticed when I've gone to do decline sit-ups or decline bench, and I've gotten here on the end, depending on how you get in and how much weight you have, it kind of wants to create this little lever over the back feet to where the bench itself kind of feels like it's going to lift up off the ground and tip over on you. So just know, I'll show you actually as I struggle and get in to try to do some bench. If you have, I honestly don't know what this is, 50 pounds each, somewhere around there. So if you are going to lift really heavy, this is something you have to be careful of. I've done it before in a higher setting when I go to do decline ab work. If you're not careful and you're sitting right over that end, the bench itself wants to tip over. So all you need to do is make sure you just lean back a little bit. But again, I want to mention that for reference, that when you're getting in and out, multiple sets like this, gotta be a little careful. Now, circling back to the last major feature I would say about this are going to be the curl pads. So real quick though, I want to show how these mount to here. So you might have noticed these they kind of look like keyholes like we've seen on power racks before. And I guess they are in fact keyholes if you want to call them that. These holes up and down here, this is to allow those curl braces, brackets, pads, whatever you want to call them. They're just a piece of padding on a piece of metal with these little circular hooks, and the hooks go into that hole. You slide it down into the little detent, and now you can have an elbow support primarily for curls, but for whatever I guess you would like to get creative with. And depending on how tall you are or depending on what movement you want to do, you can move them from this low height all the way to this height. Again, for let's say something like standing, if you can figure out a way to do that without smashing your chest here. It's nice to have. I haven't found it to be incredibly useful other than for me personally, I like doing, the more seated variety, something like this where your elbows are supported, dumbbells are down here, and you're just going to curl town. So this has been really helpful for me, and they're comfortable. So however they rounded them, they're comfortable, they're stable, they don't fall out. And so it's one of those things that they include it with it. If you don't want to use it, don't use it. I think the bench itself is worth the price without it, and with the leg roller, it has a lot of value. But this just adds yet another thing you can do, which I am all for. Home gyms, I am all for. I've always said, and I will continue to say, you can always come up with money and other things, but space is finite. So things like this that make things that already exist more functional, definitely pretty cool, pretty creative. And best part about it is when you're done using them, as we showed in the beginning of this video, they made these little keyholes as well on the frame. So whichever orientation you want to store them in, whether it's, you know, facing out or facing in, doesn't really matter. But then they're part of the bench. They're not there on the floor, and it doesn't impact the bench standing up at all. So you're done. You want to roll it out of the way. You grab your knurled handle, it's locked in on the kickstand, and it's ready to go. For $350, can't really ask for a lot more. And I think as of right now, this is probably the best budget bench that I know of. Guys, that's it for this review of the Keppi Weight Bench 6000. As always, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. I'll be happy to answer or at least try. Thanks for tuning in to the Jungle Gym Reviews. We'll see you next time. Take it easy. Peace.